Who is the most upsetting person you've ever met? I still don't know if my dad did it. If he did, I wouldn't blame him. About a week before my 10th birthday, I took a $5 bill to the corner store and bought my mom a jar of ragu. A man I had never seen before walked up behind me on my way home and started talking. Hi, he said with a smile, I'm Dr. Ramsey. I work as a doctor. What does a doctor do? I didn't say anything back as I walked along, desperately hoping that he would understand and leave me alone. He didn't do well with subtleties though, because he kept talking. Do your parents need to find a doctor for you? There's no doubt about it, you'll need a different kind of doctor soon, don't you think? That's fine though. Until then, they can still bring you to me. What's your name? Your hair is lovely. Just now I was on my way to get some candy for the office jar. Have you ever had suckers? We were getting close to my house, which was good, so I ran forward up the back steps and into the kitchen through the door. I didn't know it at the time, but that was the start of a long and scary journey. After that, Dr. Ramsey started to show up right away. It looked harmless at first, at least to a child. He smiled and waved as he drove by almost every day. When I told my mom, she thought it might have been on his way home from work. After that, the call started. I was called into the living room by my dad, who sat me down. He wanted to know about the day doctor. Ramsey followed me home, and if I had talked to him, he told me I had to tell him the truth even though I wasn't in trouble. He asked me if I was sure when I said no. When I told him no again, he frowned and asked, how does he know your name? I had no idea. He knew more than that, it turned out. He also knew the name of my sister. We soon couldn't answer the phone with my sister or myself. He called every day a few times. We both didn't understand what he was saying at first. My brother then told us one night that he had told my parents that he was going to hurt me and then my sister. That's when things got tricky. That was before there were stalking rules, so the police couldn't do much. My dad had called them. They said to get in touch if he did anything. Finally, my dad called an old friend from school who was a police officer. My dad's friend took me to and from school every day for the next month. All of a sudden, my life stopped as I knew it. I couldn't go to school, play outside, or go to 7-Eleven by myself. Things got worse when access to me was completely blocked. Around this time, he also started making threats against my sister. Then, one afternoon, my mom, my sister, two of my brothers, and I were all in the kitchen. A brother of mine caught a glimpse of someone in the shed. They had also seen him. My brothers were running after Dr. Ramsey as he ran out of the garage. He lost them in the trees in Cherokee Park, where they ran all the way there. Once more, my parents called the cops, but nothing happened. They only knew what the person looked like and gave them the fake name Dr. Ramsey. After a few weeks, when we woke up, our dog was hanging from the side porch. She was a beautiful German Shepherd with a saddleback. I was born the same day she was. We were all very sad. The police said there was no proof it was him and that it was an accident, but none of us believed them. In the meantime, his phone calls were more helpful. He would say who was home and who wasn't. He would tell my brother who was really in the house if he said my dad was home. He would also talk about the house. Talked about how he could easily open a kitchen window from the outside with a wedge even when it was locked. Also talked about how the lock on the French doors that went from the living room to the side porch could be moved just enough to let someone in from the outside. My dad put some carpenter nails in the bottom of the French doors that night until he could order a new lock. People in my family had to go to an event for my dad's job. My older brothers were at the Saints West roller rink. My sister was talking to her best friend on the phone. My younger brother was sleeping on the floor. I watched the midnight special of Devo with Wolfman Jack. It was already late. The top of the French door suddenly swung inward, and I could see his outline in the very short time before the nails in the bottom made them snap back. We ran up the stairs after my sister threw the phone at the TV. Around the middle, we saw that our little brother was still asleep on the floor of the living room. We sneaked back down the stairs to get him while being very quiet. We all went to our rooms but left the lights off so we could see what was outside. We looked out the window for a while, and when we still couldn't find him, we snuck down the hall to get a better look. When we looked down, we saw someone standing at the back door. He knocked very loudly. What do you need? My sister looked out the window. He took a step back and asked, is this the Mercy home? I need someone to bring me pizza. Could you please open the door? She laughed at him and told him she wasn't stupid. She was calling the police because she saw that he didn't have a pizza. He left. After a short time, my brothers came back home. They looked for him as they walked around the yard after hearing what happened. Things calmed down after they came back in. We had given up calling the police by this point because it never helped, so we went back inside, each of us holding a knife from the kitchen in case. Another brother finally went into the kitchen to get a snack bowl of cereal. When you feel like someone is watching you, you know what I mean? Yes, he had that in spades. He looked at the windows all the time in the kitchen, and through the hallway into the dining room, he moved closer to the door to get a better look, but he still felt like someone was looking at him. The lights in the kitchen were shining through the door windows and making it hard for him to see. He took small steps toward the door until he was right next to it. He then put both hands on either side of his head to help him see. A smile came back from Dr. Ramsey, who was on the other side of the window. When he turned around to call for my bigger brothers, he wasn't there anymore. They looked for him again but didn't find him. The next night, my brother was getting antsy while we played Crazy Eights. When my sister asked him what was wrong, he said that he always thought Dr. Ramsey would show up at any time. Almost as soon as he was done speaking, we all heard a boom, 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 boom on the window behind him. The two oldest ran out in the chaos, but he was already gone. After a few weeks, I was at school, and during break, we were outside on the playground. I was upside down when I saw that blue Ford Galaxy that I knew driving by slowly. He was there glowing with joy. When he called my name, I ran to the teacher and told her. The school knew about him, so she took me inside right away and called my mom. The school office called my mom that same day to make sure that my dad was picking me up. Since he had called to say he was on his way, he wasn't. Soon after, I woke up one night thirsty. When I went down to the kitchen to get a drink, my dad was sitting there by himself in the dark. He had his 9mm on the table. He was fed up with the cops stalling until Dr. Ramsey did something. He was sick of his kids being scared all the time. He was sick of worrying that something bad would happen to us while he was away at work every day. I watched with him for a while before he sent me back to bed. It was over just as quickly as it started. He was no longer in our lives. The calls, the drive-bys with the creepy waves, everything. During and after my time with Dr. Ramsey, I had a recurrent nightmare in which he was standing over me while I slept. I didn't feel like a kid for a long time. Years later, I learned that when Dr. Ramsey called, he would tell my parents that he was going to hurt and abuse my sister and me and that they could not stop him. I have no idea what happened to him when he turned up missing. I don't know if he was behind bars in a car accident or asleep. When my dad was sitting in the dark kitchen one night, I sometimes wonder if the wait was over for him. I'm not sure if I want to or not.